Have you ever stepped into a place you thought you knew, only to realize you didn't know it at all? That's exactly what happened one quiet Thursday night, just before closing, at a little diner on the edge of town. The neon sign outside flickered, buzzing against the cold night air. Inside, the place was nearly empty, just a waitress wiping down the counter, two cashiers chatting by the register, and the low hum of a coffee machine that sounded older than the building itself. The door creaked open. A man stepped inside. Ordinary. Forgettable. A weather jacket, faded jeans, and a cap pulled low. He looked like the kind of customer you'd see once and never remember again. He slid into the farthest booth, ordered the simplest thing on the menu, a sandwich and a cup of black coffee, and waited. But he wasn't just another customer. No one knew it yet, but this man was about to change everything. From the booth, he watched. He wasn't paying attention to the clock, or the menu, or even the waitress moving quietly from table to table. His eyes were fixed on the two cashiers at the register. They thought no one was listening. They whispered, voices sharp and bitter. "He's never here. The boss doesn't care what we do." The other laughed. "Exactly. As long as the money keeps coming in, he'll never know. Honestly, I don't think he even remembers this place exists." The man froze. Because what they didn't realize was that the ordinary customer sitting in the booth wasn't some stranger. He was their boss. The man who had built the diner from scratch years ago, when he was young, broke, and desperate to make something of himself. This place was his blood, his sweat, his hope. And now, sitting there with a cooling sandwich in front of him, he was hearing his own employees mocking him, accusing him of neglect, while pocketing bills from the register when they thought no one was watching. His coffee grew cold. His heart pounded. Should he reveal himself now? Or wait, to see just how deep the betrayal went? He stirred the cup slowly, the spoon clinking against porcelain, pretending to be just another tired traveler grabbing a late-night meal. But his ears caught every word. The two cashiers weren't just mocking him. They were planning something bigger. A scam. A way to bleed the diner dry right under his nose. Friday nights, one of them said, that's when the big tips come in. We skim off the top, split it before we close. Easy. No one ever checks the books that close. The other chuckled. The old man's blind. He doesn't even know we round the prices up. Customers don't notice an extra dollar here and there. It's pocket change for them. Free money for us. The man's hands tightened around his coffee cup. Every word cut deeper. This place wasn't just a business to him. It was a dream. A legacy. And here were the people he trusted, laughing at him, robbing him, betraying him. But then, things got darker. Because soon, the conversation shifted. From theft to something else. The waitress approached his booth with a nervous smile. Her name tag read Anna. She placed the sandwich in front of him, but her eyes flickered nervously toward the cashiers at the register. "Everything okay, sir?" she asked softly. He nodded. "Just fine. Thank you." But he noticed the way her hands trembled slightly as she set down the plate. The way she avoided looking at the register. Something wasn't right. When she walked away, he caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window. She was crying. Silent tears she wiped away quickly before anyone noticed. And in that moment, the man realized. Anna wasn't just another waitress. She was caught in something she couldn't escape. He listened closer. The cashiers were still whispering, but now their words had sharpened into threats. "Tell her to keep quiet," one said. "Or she's out. And if she talks, we'll make sure she regrets it." The other smirked. "She's scared. She won't say a word. She needs this job too much." The man felt his chest tighten. Not only were his employees stealing from him, they were using fear to keep others silent. He had come here undercover to see if the diner was still running smoothly. But what he was uncovering was corruption, greed, and cruelty buried beneath the surface of his own business. As he sat there, uneaten sandwich in front of him, his mind drifted back to when he first opened the diner. He remembered the sleepless nights. The second-hand equipment he had bought with his last savings. The way he and his late wife had worked side by side, serving coffee and pie to truckers at 2 in the morning, smiling even when their hands ached. This diner wasn't just a building. It was his life's work. a piece of his soul. And now, strangers were poisoning it. He clenched his fists beneath the table. He wanted to stand up, to shout, to drag the truth into the light. But something stopped him. A whisper of instinct. If he exploded now, he'd never know the full extent of what was happening. No. He needed to listen. To watch. To understand exactly how deep this betrayal went. The bell above the door jingled. Another man walked in. Younger. Sharp suit, slicked back hair, polished shoes that didn't belong in a small-town diner. He carried himself with confidence, maybe too much confidence. The cashiers straightened immediately. Their joking stopped. Their smirks vanished. This man wasn't just a customer. He was someone important. The undercover boss watched closely. The man in the suit leaned over the counter, speaking in low tones the boss could barely catch. Friday. Don't mess it up. You know the deal. One cashier nodded nervously. Don't worry. We've got it handled. The man in the suit slipped something across the counter, a folded envelope. Thick. Too thick to be just paper. Money. The boss's stomach turned. This wasn't just employee theft anymore. This was bigger. Much bigger. The man in the suit adjusted his tie, gave a cold smile, and walked out as quickly as he came. And in the silence that followed, the boss realized his diner wasn't just being stolen from. It was being used. For something darker. His sandwich sat untouched. His coffee long cold. But the man didn't care. Because he had just uncovered something he never imagined. His employees weren't just disloyal. They were involved in something dangerous. Something criminal. And if he didn't act carefully, everything he had built, everything he had sacrificed for, would come crashing down. But what should he do? Reveal himself now? Or wait, and let the trap tighten, so he could see just how far this went? The diner was silent after the man in the suit left. Silent, but heavy, like the walls themselves had absorbed the tension. The undercover boss sat in his booth, his mind racing. He had come here expecting to find a diner running smoothly. Instead, he had found betrayal, fear, and corruption crawling beneath the surface. And now, the question pressed harder than ever: what should he do? Anna, the waitress, returned to check on him. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Sir, do you need anything else? He looked at her closely. The tremble in her hands. The worry in her eyes. No, he said softly. Then, after a pause, but you look like you need someone to talk to. She froze. Her lips parted slightly, but she quickly shook her head. I can't. Not here. Her eyes darted to the register, where the cashiers were pretending to count bills, their eyes sharp like hawks. The boss leaned in, lowering his voice. Anna, I know something's wrong. I can see it. Whatever it is, you don't have to face it alone. Her eyes filled with tears she couldn't blink away. And then, with a trembling breath, she whispered words that made his blood run cold. They're stealing. And not just money. They're moving things. Packages. Late at night. The man in the suit, he's dangerous. He tells them what to do. If anyone talks, he says people will get hurt. The boss's stomach sank. Packages. A front. His diner wasn't just a restaurant anymore. It was being used for something darker, something criminal. He leaned back in his booth, his hands trembling beneath the table. He had built this place to feed families, to bring people together. And now? It was being used to destroy. And worst of all, his employees weren't just stealing from him. They were helping strangers turn his life's work into a crime scene. The betrayal cut deep. But beneath the hurt was anger. Hot, steady, unshakable anger. He couldn't let this continue. But he also knew one wrong move could endanger Anna. Could endanger him. No. He had to be smart. Careful. Precise. The cashiers finally noticed Anna lingering by the booth. What are you doing? One barked. Get back to work. Anna flinched. The boss saw it, the fear, the shame, and something inside him snapped. He stood. Slowly. Calmly. But with a presence that made the room feel smaller. The cashiers blinked, confused. You've had your fun, he said quietly. His voice steady. Controlled. But it ends tonight. One cashier frowned. "What are you talking about, old man?" The boss removed his cap. For the first time, they saw his face clearly. The lines of age. The tired eyes. The quiet fury. Recognition hit them like a brick. Their faces drained of color. "Wait, you're..." "Yes." His voice was sharp. "Final. I'm the man who built this place. The man you thought was too blind to care. The man you've been stealing from, mocking, betraying." Silence. Thick. Suffocating. Anna gasped softly, covering her mouth. The cashier stammered. We can explain." "No," the boss cut them off. "You've explained enough with your whispers. With your lies. With your greed." His voice rose, steady but sharp as steel. "This diner was built with sweat and sacrifice. My wife and I scrubbed floors until our hands bled, cooked meals until our backs broke. We gave everything to make this place a home for people. And you," he pointed at them, his hand trembling with fury, "you turned it into a gutter for thieves." One cashier tried to regain control. His voice was low, threatening. "You don't know what you're getting into. You think you can just walk in here and stop this? You don't know who you're dealing with." The other cashier leaned closer, his voice like poison. "That man in the suit, he doesn't forgive. If he finds out you're here, if he finds out you know," he smirked coldly. "Let's just say, sandwiches will be the last thing on your mind." Anna's hand shook as she placed it over her mouth. The boss didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned forward, his voice low and steady. "Then let him come. Because I won't let this place rot another day." He turned to Anna. "You knew. And you were brave enough to stay. To endure. But you don't have to anymore. You've done more for this diner than these two ever did." Tears streamed down her face. "I didn't want to lose my job. I didn't want to lose the only thing keeping me on my feet. But I couldn't stay quiet forever." The boss nodded. "You don't have to. Not anymore." He turned back to the cashiers. "You've stolen enough. Tonight, you answer for it." But before he could move, the bell above the door jingled again. And the man in the suit walked back in. The air grew heavier instantly. The man in the suit scanned the room, his cold eyes landing on the boss. "Who's this?" he asked sharply. No one answered. He smirked. "Doesn't matter. I know trouble when I see it." The boss straightened. "I own this diner." The man in the suit smile faded. "Then you're the one causing problems." He stepped closer, his polished shoes echoing on the tile. "You don't belong here anymore. This place isn't yours. It's mine now. Your employees made sure of that." The boss clenched his fists. "You're wrong. This diner will never be yours." The man in the suit's eyes narrowed. "Then you've just made the worst mistake of your life." But before the tension could explode, Anna stepped forward. "No," she said, her voice shaking but strong. "The mistake was thinking you could scare us forever." She reached under her apron and pulled out her phone. The screen glowed. The boss caught a glimpse, the recorder app running. She had recorded everything. The whispers. The threats. The man in the suit's words. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady. "It's over. I'm done being scared." The man in the suit's face twisted with rage. He lunged forward. But the boss moved faster. He slammed his hand against the counter, his voice booming. "Enough!" The entire diner seemed to shake with his fury. "You've stolen, you've threatened, you've poisoned what I built. But tonight, it ends. This place belongs to the people who care for it. Not to snakes who slither in the dark." The man in the suit glared, his jaw clenched. But he saw the fire in the boss's eyes, and the phone in Anna's hands. Evidence. Proof. Enough to bring him down. With a snarl, he turned on his heel and stormed out. The bell jingled one last time as the door slammed shut. Silence hung in the diner. The cashiers stood frozen, pale and trembling. The boss stared at them. "You're finished here. Both of you. Tomorrow morning, this place starts fresh. Without you." They didn't argue. They didn't plead. They knew it was over. Anna wiped her tears, clutching the phone to her chest. The boss placed a hand on her shoulder. You saved this place tonight. You gave it a chance to breathe again. From now on, you're not just an employee here. You're family." She sobbed softly, nodding. "Thank you." Later that night, as the boss finally ate his cold sandwich, he looked around the diner with new eyes. It was scarred, yes. Betrayed, yes. But it wasn't broken. Because sometimes, even in the darkest nights, there are sparks of loyalty. Sparks of courage. Sparks of hope. And he knew those sparks were enough to rebuild. The diner would rise again. Not because of walls or tables or neon lights, but because of the people who truly cared. And as the clock struck midnight, he whispered to himself, "This place will never die. Not while I still breathe." That night, a simple sandwich revealed a world of betrayal. But it also revealed something stronger: the power of truth, the strength of loyalty, and the courage of standing up when it matters most. Because sometimes, the quietest people, like a trembling waitress with a hidden recording, hold the loudest power of all. And that's why, in a small-town diner on the edge of nowhere, the legacy of one man's dream lived on.